Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about the competitive spirit in embracing debate while staying humble, because we can do those two things at the same time. Our guest is going to share with us a little bit about how to do that. And she is Stella Michael. She's a digital leader, community trustee, and a mom. She's also the director of digital services at Corewell Health. And she is a vocal lady. She is competitive, but she's also very humble and loves a debate. And that's why I am really happy to get to speak to her today on the behalf of all of us. So welcome, Stella.
Thank you, Evna. I'm excited to be here with you and share my story.
So why don't we start with how your leaders describe you? Because it's always good to know how people describe us, and it gets a sense of your personality as well and what's valued by your leaders as well.
Yeah, my leaders see me as someone who is passionate, who cares about our patients and members. I work in the healthcare space, and a lot of my passion stems from the fact that I deeply care about our communities. I am also viewed as someone who's bold and never shy to speak up and ask questions, coming more from a place of curiosity versus being judgmental. People also know me or view me as a DEI leader. I'm very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I bring some of my experiences, some of my exposure that I've had in the community to the problems that we're solving. I also try my best to be very inclusive of those who are in the room. So my leaders really appreciate the fact that I am not just representing my voice, but representing the voice of those who report up to me or the members that we serve. And I think they value that I bring that sense of collaboration and that sense of compassion into my discussion. So I think that's the more professional side of it. I also know people view me as like a bubbly personality who can't keep a poker face on camera. So they do try to trick me sending messages on the side because I'll crack up in the meetings. So it's nice that I wear my heart on my face. So it's not faking it. But I know that my teams really enjoy the energy and the bubbliness that I bring into some of these conversations. Yeah.
And that sounds like a pretty good description. I would really enjoy to have that description if that were me. So because it has the bold and the caring, right? The nurturing side and the strength side. That's a very powerful combination to be able to have both sides and call that yourself. Like you said, you're passionate, you're bubbly, but that's also just you being you and not holding back.
Yeah. Yeah. I take the platforms that I'm given very seriously. So time is money, opportunity cost is big on my mind. So what if this is the last conversation I will be having with this group of leaders? What if the impact of not doing it is going to cost people's lives and health? And a lot of the times in my mind, I bring that sense of urgency, that sense of criticality, the opportunity cost. And it could be translated as being direct or brash, but people who know me well know that I'm coming because I deeply care. And I really want the best for the organization, for the teams, and the communities. But the key part is having that relationship. It takes some time. And I think I'm thankful that with most, if not all of my leaders, I've spent that time and energy in building that trust and building that credibility, that I don't have to feel like I'm walking on eggshells when I'm in these meetings because I can speak my mind. I know it's a place where all the questions are welcomed, all the challenges are welcome, again, with an intention that we want the best for the organization, for our teams, and for the community.
So, what I understand is now that you've built that trust and credibility with the leaders, when you bring that sense of urgency in these initiatives and what you're doing and these conversations, it's no longer seen negatively by the leaders, but maybe before establishing that trust, it was seen in the wrong way. Is that what you experienced?
Sometimes, yes, especially for people that don't know me or have not worked with me. I know that I come across as very direct or straightforward, or someone who is more speaking their mind versus listening. But when I go into the conversations, I'm very data driven. I read a lot, I research a lot. So I don't necessarily think that it's any pride, but more around confidence. I'm going there because I know my facts, I've done my research. And I think that command of respect during that conversation could easily be misunderstood as someone who has put on their blinders, wants what they want, versus saying, no, she's done her homework, she really cares, and she wants to do the right thing for the organization. So I think it takes time. And I know I'll give an example of where there was this time where I was asked to lead a new project, and it's a new space for me. I have not worked in that particular business area, and I was in a room full of leaders with higher level titles, and I was proposing a strategy or a change in how we approach a problem. And it was not necessarily the popular opinion. So then you go in there with two mindsets. Either you're going there to please the people in the room, or you're going in there because you've done your homework and what's the best for our customers. And so when I went in there, it was very hard because my opinion was not the popular opinion, but I still had to share that. And at one point, also respectfully say I agree to disagree, and it's not my decision. I definitely respect authority and I'm always following through on authority, but I also want them to know that here's my opinion, here's what I would recommend, and the final decision is of course of those leaders. And it wasn't easy. It was nervous, and I think it went well at the end of the day, but it's hard because as women, you're thinking of all these things. What would people think about you? What would they say? Because you're challenging it. You're almost entering into this debate, and they may translate that as I'm questioning their authority, or I'm questioning the expertise. Whereas me, I'm coming more because I'm confident, because of the research that I've done, because of the work that I've put into before I came into this meeting. So anyways, I think through experience, you learn that even though you feel uncomfortable, it's good to be okay by being uncomfortable. You're comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Like you're getting more used to being not okay and uncomfortable in these conversations. And I think that's a good sign because it's putting yourself outside of that comfort zone. Again, having the right mindset of caring deeply for your team, your patients, your communities, your consumers, and the organization as a whole.
So you were uncomfortable with the situation, but highly confident in what you were saying.
Yes, that's the part where it could be translated as overconfidence or brashness. And for me, it's more, hey, I've done my homework. I am the expert in this space, and I've talked to many other peers in the industry, and here's what's going on. So I would encourage highly for other women who are in these areas to definitely do your homework, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, but speak up your mind and go there with the humility that you have to learn a lot more, but also go there with the confidence that you've done enough to present your case.
That's right. Do you ever speak your mind and share what you think when you're not that confident in the thought or the opinion or the perspective that you have?
So when I'm not very confident, especially when you're doing projections, as leaders are always saying, we're doing scenario planning. You're asking yourself, what would happen 5 years from now? And COVID is a great example. Nobody probably had that in their scenario plans. But I think those are things that you're stretching your mind. The approach that I have taken is when I'm going into this conversation where I'm not very certain, I go in with saying, here are the scenarios that could play out. Here are the options. Here are the pros and cons. So my goal is to bring about the best from everyone in the conversation, the best from everyone in the room, and have that intellectual rigor around what does this mean and what are these options? What are the pros and cons? Going into a decision being more informed about the pros and cons versus just doing it because the loudest person or the loudest voice in the room is saying that is a totally different thing. Now, it could end up, we still do something that, the powers of be have decided, but if I've done the job of informing the risk, informing the options, informing what could be or what's the opportunity cost, and so on. I think that really helps the leaders, because in their mind, they're thinking of the options, you're giving them recommendations versus going in single-handedly and saying, this is what you should do. So I'm not perfect at it. I know I have a lot of learning to do, but I think those are the things those are the tools that I pick on. Is I can't really tell what the future will be in the next 5 years, but if we have these scenarios played out, here's how you could pick and choose an option.
A great way of contributing when we're not 100% sure about what we're sharing, which is, hey, here's a thought, or here's a possibility, here's the pros and the cons, here's another possibility, here's the pros and the cons, what do you think? It's bringing your expertise still, because you're formulating the options and the pros and the cons for each one. Perhaps you're even sharing which one you think is the best option, but you're at the same time opening up for other people to provide their inputs, and you're not saying it has to be this is it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you consider yourself competitive?
I played basketball growing up, which has instilled a competitive spirit in me. I played basketball in my school, in college, and I think I'm naturally a fighter. I want to win, I compete, and I work hard. So I'm not shameful to say that I want to win. So yes, I do have a competitive spirit. I refuse to sulk in failures. I refuse to self-pity myself too much, because it just doesn't put me in a healthy spot to operate. I try to find ways to motivate myself and have those goals that are bigger and broader than what I think I can. That way I keep myself humble enough to keep learning, curious enough to keep striving for something better. That's my competition. I compete with myself to be the best version of myself and to capitalize and maximize every gift that God has given me.
You're competitive with yourself. Does that mean that you're very self-critical?
I'm more self-reflective. If I look back and I say, okay, 3 years from now, where do I want to see myself? And 3 years ago, where was I? If I don't feel good about the progress that I made in the last 3 years, then yeah, I'm probably getting up to do much more quicker and faster to feel good about investing in myself and maximizing some of those gifts. At the same time, I also push myself to say 3 years from now, where do I want to be? Again, those scenario plans. We can put all our efforts, but at the end of the day, God leads those plans. Very faith led, and I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. My faith is a big part of who I am and why I am what I am. And I try my best to say, okay, if these are the options, am I making that effort? Do I need to learn more? Do I need to coach? Do I need to receive some mentorship? Do I need to do other things to expand my thinking, read other books, listen to podcasts? So I'm very intentional about the time that I spend if I know where I want to go. If you don't have the competitive spirit, then you're like laid back, endlessly scrolling TikTok, or which I still do sometimes when I'm lazy, but those are the things that I'm very intentional about. And like I said, I put a lot of emphasis on opportunity cost with being a mom of 3 little kids. I know that I could probably be cooking a home cooked meal for them, going to their class for their Thanksgiving parties, and I'm choosing not to do that, or I may be sacrificing that because I'm investing in something that's more important. And if it's not worth it, then I don't do it. And so that's why for me, it's a very important thing that I see clear purpose and intentionality on the time that I'm spending, because I know I could probably be doing other things that are more meaningful for my family and for myself.
You're protective of your time and your energy, because you're competing to be your best for yourself, for others, for your family. Do you think that competing with other people is a bad thing?
I would say compete on the ideas. That's where my debating spirit comes. Is I've never seen it as a personal attack or anything, but I'm more on the ideas. If we're all in our careers or in our companies, I work in a nonprofit, although all my past before I joined in the nonprofit was all highly competitive. I worked at Samsung, Cypress, Qualcomm, like you're competing with the market. So you have to have the best idea. You have to bring your first innovation out before the others do it. In a way or form, you do want to have that sense of competition, that the best and the brightest idea wins. And if that's not the case, then I compete to make sure that I'm bringing that about as a collective good from the rest of my group. I've never seen that, oh, okay, so and so is growing so much or is earning so much, and I should do that. Although I know that because of the success that God has given me over the years, I'm very intentional about the platform and the privilege. If I'm not voicing unfairness or lack of equity in pay or things like that, I try to compete and I say, hey, if this is something that I deserve, then I should be, especially if I'm aware that's, and coming born and raised in India, these are not easy conversations for us. We are usually like more go on with the flow, do what is given. So it takes a lot for me being a woman of color coming from India to say I deserve more because of my contributions. And you could say that, yeah, that's where some of my competitive spirit comes in, where I don't, although it's still uncomfortable, I'm willing to take it because I'm competitive. And I say that because if I'm doing it, I know that I'm breaking down the barriers for the next one who's coming into that role, and that I'm creating that space for other women to go into. So I take that very seriously, that privilege that I have and the platforms that I have, so that I can break down the barriers for others coming after.
So you're always thinking about other women who are coming behind you, and that's what motivates you to succeed personally. Is that right?
Yes, it is. And more recently, I've been reflecting on the definition of success. And my definition of success is a healthy harmony between your personal, professional, and community circles. And I believe that each of us is a lot more worth than what we do for a living. And I should not and will not compartmentalize my success to what I'm gaining in my career. I say that because a lot of the times a career path don't allow for exercising all your gifts, all your abilities, and that's okay. You'll just have to find other venues. Like, I love your story because you found another way through your podcast to share some of those gifts that you have in a way that maybe your workplace may not be necessarily providing. And I love that. And I want more and more women to feel empowered to say, you know what, I'm going to do my best to pay my bills, have a roof over my head and things like that. But at the same time, knowing that there are other things that I have to give to this world, there are other things to bring out to the best of my abilities, whether it's a community work, whether it's a cause that you're passionate about, whether it's a book that you want to write, a podcast that you want to do. I've personally been very reflective of what that means for me. And I'm using the platforms that I have to encourage everyone to redefine what success means for them, the core to yourself, the personal things. Be the best mom, be the best sister, best daughter, best friend, best colleague, things like that, that we don't necessarily pay attention to. And all of that helps you to grow. And the other thing that I've also found is sometimes you get stuck in your professional career and it can weigh on you. But if you have other paths like your your community paths or your personal paths that you're still pushing the needle on, you feel good about yourself. You're like, you know what? Yeah, this may be a dry season in one of these circles, but you're moving on the other circles. And I really think that intrinsic motivation will help us as women to keep going. So that's my thing, is to continue to redefine success for myself. So people are not ashamed to say, you know what? It's okay to take a break and nurture my newborn baby. It's okay to maybe let go of a certain promotion because this may not be the season for me. I have someone that I need to take care of, an elder parent or something. And that should be celebrated. That should be honored, because those are some nurturing and natural abilities that God has given women. We should celebrate that and not necessarily use that as a weapon to not promote them or not give them equal opportunities at work.
Yeah, and have no shame and no guilt in those things. Be able to make that decision for oneself and one's family without any worries about that. And on the flip side, during school, I signed up for a class on social impact. One of the initial debates was, for social impact, is it better to do a for-profit or non-for-profit? Until then, I was really into non-for-profits, and I respect non-for-profits, and I think it's wonderful. But as I was thinking about my own future and what I wanted to do, it's all business cases. You study all these stories of companies and how they've developed. And both sides, profits and non-for-profits, can be very successful. But that was a turning point for me, studying those business cases, where for me, I realized, you know what, I actually really like the idea of for profit. I don't want personally to do a non for profit because in that moment I realized that money is power. Money is execution. Money actually allows us to do a lot of things that we want to do to even help others. It was very liberating to start thinking, you know what, it's okay as a woman to want to and talk about money. Sometimes I think there's a stigma, especially for women, to say the word money.
Not when we're going for shopping,
Not
only when we're asking for
exactly.
a pay, right? We're free to spend money on shopping, but we just are not very shy to ask about or talk about
Oh,
money in the business world.
that's so interesting. I never thought about that. We have no issues talking about spending money with big brands, but we have an issue
Yeah,
talking about earning money and making more money than others. That's something that I would love to dismantle because I think money is empowerment. I feel like women need to have more money, a bigger share
hmm
of money in the planet. It's not that that's a definition of success, but I think it's an important element, which I hadn't really initially reflected on. But I think having that balance is so important that you're talking about and being able to balance all
absolutely.
aspects of life and being able to define success on our own versus following the societal expectations of what success is.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I like to bring about is profit with purpose. You want both. And I think it's good to have that healthy tension. You don't want to be too profitable where you're costing people's lives or it's having an adverse effect on the community. But at the same time, you don't want to be so purpose driven that you don't know how to run a business and then it goes bankrupt. So I think it's always a good sign of leadership when you have that healthy balance between profit and purpose. You need both. And I say that both in profit and nonprofit, because even a nonprofit organization should still run, although it's not profit on your financial statements and all of that. But there are certain things from a margin standpoint, an operation standpoint, and fixed costs that you need to keep running. You need some of that going. You want to do the right thing from a mindset of what's the best from an organizational standpoint, a longevity standpoint, at the same time, an impact. So, how do you get the best of profit and purpose?
Yeah, I think it's very powerful to combine those two and an important consideration as well as ethics, right? Most businesses have a purpose, but some purpose it's always to maximize shareholder value. But in reality, there is
Yeah.
something behind that. There's something else. It's
Yep.
not just to maximize the share price or the
Yep.
earnings per share. I agree with you. I'm really into purpose, and I feel like profit supports purpose.
Few years before COVID, I don't know if you've heard this term called stakeholder capitalism. What we just spoke about so far is capitalism. And then there's something called stakeholder capitalism, which was very intriguing to me because now you are shifting from not just focusing on, to your point, maximizing the profits for your shareholders, but you're saying, I depend on the employees. They need to function for this organization to put the best products out. You're depending on your suppliers. COVID, we all were looking for the masks and PPE. In the healthcare, we've seen how much we really needed our suppliers to work with us. And the list goes on. Like you have so many other smaller groups of people and constituents that you want to be able to work together. And so there's been an interesting shift from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. And there's goods and bads with both. You could swing it to another extreme, and now you're like meeting the needs of 100 different people that you don't know what you actually stand for. So I've seen how that could also be abused. But I think it's good to have, like you said, again, that balance. And you don't want it to be swung to one way or the other. You do want to have the profits. You want to make sure your shareholders are happy because they're investing in your organization. We also want to say, hey, this is my social responsibility for my teams, for the suppliers that I work with, whatever other dependencies, your agents, things like that, that you want to make sure that they are also happy and you want to focus on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the clients as well.
Exactly, right? You need all of them to be successful.
One of the things that you shared with me was this beautiful analogy of the pressure cooker. And I'd love to hear that again because it came about when we were talking about challenging others while caring for them. So could you share that and maybe give an
Absolutely.
example?
When in my current role, the team that I was given when we were newly formed, where we had 5 team members and we were in a completely new domain, we were very dependent on our vendors to come tell us what to do and whatnot. I had to inspire my team to get out of their comfort zones, learn something new. I also had to deliver to the business, which means I needed to get things done. And so you're left in this interesting, I say these are leadership dilemmas or ethical dilemmas, because I believe that leaders play a dual role. You represent your teams to the organization and you represent your organization to the team. And a lot of the times it's very hard to balance that. And depending on the audience, sometimes you shift your hats on what you're speaking and how you represent that. Anyways, during that time, I was reflecting on coming from born and raised in India. We use pressure cookers a lot and we use it for cooking our daily meals. And what was interesting is you could boil rice in a pressure cooker and you could boil eggs in a pressure cooker. Before you put it in, rice is hard and grainy. And then you put it in the pressure cooker, it comes out soft and fluffy. The egg is brittle and liquidy. And then you put it in the pressure cooker, it comes out to be a solid and tasty. And the moral of the story is when you have the right pressure applied for the right time, you don't want to cook it at too high a temperature and for too long, right? So you need to have the right pressure and you need to have a right temperature, which means a right timing of how much you want to do it. You definitely bring the best out of the people. And you cook it too less, your rice is soft and soggy, it doesn't taste good. So you don't put pressure on people, the healthy pressure, then they're taking it easy, there's no accountability, and you don't see results. At the same time, you put too much pressure, then your eggs start to crack. It's no longer tasting good because now translating that into the business world, your teams are burnt out, they're not operating at the efficiency that you want. So the analogy of the pressure cooker here is that if you have a team member, irrespective of how they respond to pressure, if you have the right pressure and you're doing it in a good contained environment, you will bring the best version of your teams. And you should not fear saying, oh, I'm stressing them out. No, because sometimes you do need that healthy tension between yourself and your team members because you're bringing the best version, you're holding them accountable, you're driving them to better results. And they could be someone who is hard and they can end up being soft and empathetic as they go through this process, or they can be someone who is really soft and brittle and too touchy, and through this initiative and through the coaching and through the experience, they might come out to be just fine and robust and build that resilience towards the work that we do. So yeah, that's my reflection on the pressure cooker analogy and how we can learn from small things like that too. Leadership is everywhere. You just have to have the eye to see it.
So what kind of pressure cooker works best for you?
Like the real pressure cooker that I use.
No, like the one at work.
For me, I need a place where I can influence, and I need a place where I can speak my mind and challenge the status quo. I also need the support of being able to deliver and show results. If I don't have that inspiration and motivation to get out of the bed and do it, then it's very hard for me to go to bed feeling satisfied about my day. My kind of pressure is I know the vision of the organization, I'm aligned with the mission, I understand the strategy, and I'm getting into execution and getting things done. If there is no clarity on either of those, then I think, like I said, it's not the right pressure for me. It's not the right place for me to thrive. At the same time, I like autonomy. I don't like to be told. I don't like to be micromanaged. And I thrive better when I have the flexibility and the independence and the autonomy to make choices that are best for my team and for myself. And if that's not there, I quickly get burnt out or frustrated, and I'm probably not my optimum self. So those are my equivalents to what workplace pressure cooker would look like.
I'm like you with respect to the autonomy. In the past, I also realized that I'm good with some pressure, and the pressure is almost what you were saying. It's like competition with yourself, but sometimes activated by someone else. and not necessarily someone else in your face, but someone else who might be, for me, I enjoy very direct, strong personalities who have a strong opinion about things. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them, but it shakes me up and it makes me have a bit more of that sense of urgency that you were talking about. So it's interesting how we all have a different way of operating our own pressure cookers. It's a good thing to think about.
Somebody told me that chaos is a perfect place for a leader to be born. People used to make fun of me at my work. There was a period, and even now, when there is like a really bad project, like I'm somehow in that. And people say, is it because you're going in and it's getting bad, or because it's bad and they bring you in because you help bring some structure into it? I love it only because that chaos helps me to bring structure, and leadership is very visible because you're actually showing tangible outcomes, saying here it was dark and here it is better, it's light. So there was like that stark contrast. And so it's funny because every time there is these like really high visibility and stressful projects, somehow I'm in those, and people just assume that I am there, and they feel confident that I'm going to bring some structure into these projects. I appreciate that trust that my leaders and my business partners put in me. Yeah.
Yeah, because some leaders are more maintenance leaders. They take something good and make sure that it stays good. But sometimes when things go bad, then they have to bring on a different type of leader like yourself who can actually transform the bad and help transform that into something good, which takes a whole different skill set.
Yeah. I always get bored very easily. My goal of any roles that I've been is to work myself out of a job, because I try to set up processes, technology, automation, and structures in place that, eliminate the need for somebody to be overseeing it. And I take that as a challenge. I don't try to necessarily hold on to things because I have to be there or it's a job security. If I've done well enough that it's sustaining, and the leaders that I've coached are smart enough to run it, that's success to me. So yeah, I'm more that transformative person versus incremental progress or keep the lights on running. So if I don't have leaders that welcome that mindset, it's very difficult for us to work well with each other.
So that's another definition of success in what you do. Another part of the definition.
Yeah.
Now, as a mom, you're a mom of 3, and it's never easy to have kids, young kids, and navigate your career. So could you share a little bit about how your experience has been?
Yeah. So pregnancy and motherhood have been such a important part of my journey thus far. I have delivered 3 babies, all while staying employed. I had some challenges and rough experiences. I was overlooked for a promotion when I gave birth to my first child because I wasn't, or at least one of the reasons I was given was because I was not there in the office as much. And it really broke my heart, but I'm a fighter. I was like, okay, what do you want me to do to get that promotion? And they gave me a new set of goals, and I delivered them, and I bagged the promotion. I Interestingly, with the next 2 pregnancies, I actually received a promotion too. And so again, a joke goes on saying, okay, when is the next baby coming? And then you're going to have a promotion. I'm like, no, I'm done with babies, but I'm still hoping that at some point I will continue to get promoted. Although, like I said, promotion for me is more not necessarily an increase in title and pay, although I definitely welcome that. I will never shy away from that. For me, it's more around the company is valuing what I bring. If I'm not feeling valued and respected for what I'm bringing, then I can't feel motivated and can't feel inspired to continue to serve the organization. So for me, it's more around it needs to be in a space. That promotion for me is an inspiration. It's a display of value and respect of what I'm bringing to the workplace. Because I'm very active in the community, I know that I need my family to support me. And I'm blessed to have a husband who is very supportive and very giving and encouraging. And I remember last year, and I like to share the story because it's very personal, but also very emotional for me. I received an award for 40 under 40 emerging leaders by the Grand Rapids Business Journal. And I was at the award ceremony and received my award, came down the stage, and my then 8-year-old beaming smile, wide open arms, ran to me, hugged me, and said, "Mom, you're awesome. I want to be like you." And I was just fine until then, and I couldn't keep with it. And I just broke down. I think times like those, I feel the hustle is worth it. I feel that my kids understand that I'm doing bigger and better things and that they want to take after me. They see that as a model that they want to follow versus saying mom's not being around or mom's not here, because that's the mom guilt in me. And I think that moment when he said that, it wiped away my mom's guilt, and it just moved me so much to say that all the work that I'm putting outside of what I'm giving to the family was worth it. So people, I know kids are a lot of work. They're a lot of delight, but they're a lot of work. So are families. But I would not want to change any part of that because it's a big part of who I am. It gives me that sense of nurturing, that sense of, hey, I'm inspiring the next generation and I want to do the best for them. And I want to provide the world that is better for them than where I entered. And and I think when you go in through the leadership spaces, and I think you said that before with money, sometimes as you mature in your workplace and you grow to a place, you get that freedom and you get that credibility where now you're not having to worry too much about where else you're spending your time, right? You get that little bit of autonomy where your leaders trust you to do your job. Your teams know that you've delivered, that you've got their back. Your business partners know that you're focusing. It's a very liberating experience where now you're not worrying about what would others think. And so for me, I think I'm at a place where now I feel blessed to be able to go join their school Thanksgiving party, Christmas party, 100th day in the school party. That's actually a thing, 100th day in the school. I don't even know where they came up with, but clearly my son is such a party guy and he introduced the party. And so clearly they had one. For me, that redefining success is how do you get the best of your personal life, your professional life, and your community life that makes you the best version of yourself. And you will see that carry forward at workplace because they push your buttons so much at work that when you go into the office, like 10 people are irritating you or frustrating you, you're like, yeah, it's a breeze because I have 2 toddlers at home and I can just manage it just fine. So I think they build in you a little bit of that emotional elasticity, that tenacity to deal with your change in moods and swings. And I appreciate that. My son says, oh, mommy goes into beast mode when she's hungry. And I was like, okay, when I take interviews or when I'm going into a performance review, I make sure I eat and go, because if I'm hungry and I'm grumpy, I probably am not being the best version of myself. So I value those things that, your family brings about, your other side of it that you're not aware of. When you're aware of it going into the workplace, then again, you do the best to help your team members. So yeah, it's never easy. My encouragement to others is that don't feel shy or don't feel bad if you need to take time for yourself. You got to do your thing with your family, with your kids, caregive, and work will be there and you can always go back. And I'm hoping that you'll have good leaders who will not necessarily use that as a reason for not giving you a promotion, but will value the things that you're bringing because of the maturity that you have through those experiences. Yeah. Yeah. One other example, I know that I've shared this before with others and they really resonate. I had a personal goal for myself to breastfeed my son or my kids for 1 full year. And for those of you who have had kids will understand that you have to take time to go pump, otherwise you're in pain and you're having meetings and it's not easy. It's very stressful. But thanks to now it being virtual, women are feeling a little bit more empowered to commit to that personal goal and work towards it. Because in the past, they're like, yeah, this is not happening. Once I'm back in the office, I don't think I can continue to keep pumping or I continue to breastfeed and whatnot. Glad to say that through sweat, blood, and tears that I was able to breastfeed close to a year all my kids. And I'm glad I did that because that was my personal commitment. I'm not saying that everyone should do it. I know as part of my prenatal classes, I was encouraged to do it. And I took that as a goal. I understand that pregnancies are complex and everything is very unique. So do what you got to do. I know all the mama bears out there will do the best for your kids. And don't feel bad about having that personal commitment and keeping to it. And I did it. It was not easy, but looking back, I wouldn't do it any other way.
Your child saying that you were awesome. How beautiful is that? And the fact that, yes, you were told when you were pregnant that you didn't get a promotion because you weren't spending enough time at the office. Those things unfortunately do happen. But subsequently, you had two very positive experiences where your work was acknowledged when you were pregnant and you got opportunities and promotions. So there's possibilities out there. You didn't let that first negative experience stop you from growing your family, which is something that you wanted, and grow it in the way that you wanted to grow and give each child the full year of breastfeeding. Because it's still crazy to me in the US, like women get what?
The maternity leave is 6 to 8 weeks, which again for me was such a cultural shock, as my friends in India were giving birth to babies and they had 6 months maternity leave followed by slow transition to the workplace followed by subsidized childcare by their employer. I'm like, yeah, not happening here. It's 6 weeks or 8 weeks, I'm back at work. It's definitely a lot of room for improvement here in the US for sure.
It's very challenging, but can be done. Not only that, you were sharing so many different things about bringing your full self to work, being able to find your own definitions of success, right? And be competitive for your family, for your improvement, to protect your time and your energy, and for the women coming behind you so that they can find it an easier path to be able to achieve their growth and their contribution, and being open. And I like that you talked about the competitiveness around ideas, so competing with others on ideas, which essentially goes back to that story where you were sharing that if you have to really push and speak and have a sense of urgency around issues because you're confident in what you're sharing and your idea, because you know that's going to add value, then you'll do so. And you'll make sure that you're building relationships with other people and other leaders in order to be able to have those conversations and share your ideas strongly and with conviction in those moments. And with all of that, you found your perfect story where you're able to balance all of those things, personal and family and work, and get a sense of fulfillment and see your own growth, which then makes you feel successful. So that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. You summarized it so well. Maybe in the future, if I write a book, I'll ask you to write something on it because you did it so beautifully. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Any last thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, I like this, like few quotes that I usually fall back on. And one of them is from the Bible, which says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear or timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and self-discipline." And for me, that's so important to know that I have that in me. I have greatness in me, and I just have to work towards bringing that out. So I encourage everyone to find that in yourself and have faith in yourself and in the future potential of yours. And everyone has greatness within you. It's just a matter of time before you unleash that potential and keep at it, and you will succeed. I also like this other quote from Maya Angelou that says, "Do the best you can. And when you know better, do better." So if you know something that's better, if you know that you can be an advocate for other women, if you know that you can be the voice of the other person in the room that's not speaking, speak up and be bold and be courageous, because like I said, you have greatness in you and you are inspiring the next generation. So don't take that lightly. I am active on LinkedIn, so anyone who is interested in following me can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Stella Michael and I can send and post the link to my LinkedIn bio. But yeah, I wish everyone the best, and feel free to reach out to me if you, after watching this video, have any questions or want to get to know more. I'm happy to do whatever I can.
Wonderful. And thank you for your courage to share your personal story with us today, Stella. So thank you.
Thank you.